Hello, everyone. My name is Ray Bowman, and I'm a center director for the Small Business Development Center, part of the Los Angeles network, and I coordinate our technical assistance for international trade. And I was real pleased and honored for me and my colleague to be asked to go over some basics of e-commerce. And so I'm going to have a conversation with one of our key advisors and experts on e-commerce, Tsao. And again, my name is Ray Bowman. And the way we're going to format this is we're going to have a conversation basically going over 4 key areas of e-commerce. And those areas are basically, what do you need to know in terms of setting up your website as a business? And more importantly, how does that change or differ if you're doing an international website, to attract international business? And then we're going to talk about omni-channeling, what that is and why it's important. What are some of these omni-channel platforms? And then talk about a little bit about e-commerce marketing. And then lastly, are you ready to get into e-commerce? Have you thought about some of the costs? And so we're going to try to provide some framework on things that you should think about in those 4 areas. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Tsao. He's one of our key advisors. Again, Jay, if you could kind of introduce yourself and give a little bit about your background and your experience in e-commerce.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Ray. Happy to be here today and be invited by the SBA to speak about e-commerce. I've been, my background in e-commerce has been spanned, 25 plus years, both on, the front end transaction and selling side with various different tech platforms. I've built several tech platforms as well to integrate with, the Amazon of the world. And I also have a background in logistics in terms of looking at, the front end of the transaction of e-commerce, which is facilitating payments, getting buyers to purchase and things of and the marketing side, but also under the hood of e-commerce and the back end activities like, product fulfillment, order delivery, getting products cheaper and faster to the customer. And, I've been a business advisor for Ray under the EDC, the SBDC for several years. Helping with clients who are trying to navigate international trade, import and export, but also really around this growth and emerging industry sector that we call e-commerce. So happy to be here and happy to talk about this topic with you.
Well, and great to have this conversation. I think the one thing interesting is not only do both of us have experience with e-commerce, but we both have a background in traditional supply chain logistics, traditional international trade. So, we both kind of understand the transition that international trade's going through. So to kind of get into it, in looking at what a small business needs to know about direct to customer websites, setting up their own platform, there's a lot of different things that you have to consider, in both not only the platform that you're going to be on, but how you're going to buy and sell goods through that platform, how you're going to transact business. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little about what those basics look like.
Yeah, to start off, any seller that is planning on selling, a product that either they've purchased and they're reselling, or they've manufactured a product, or they've made a product that they want to introduce to the world. It's an exciting time, obviously, to be an entrepreneur, to be a product maker, and there's so many great avenues out there to sell this product. So first and foremost, most companies or small companies or startups that are trying to introduce their product to the world, they want to build their own website, or what we call the web store, in order to help create visibility and awareness to their brand. And the first thing that they'll do is to venture about how to create a website that allows for for buyers to be able to add their products to cart, check out, and go through that whole and facilitate all that transaction. So, merely 10 years ago, building a web store would be extremely expensive. You'd have to go and install, expensive ERP products. IBM has a suite of products that can cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands to employ. But now, with online hosted shopping carts like Shopify, like Magento, these platforms basically allow you to create a web store literally overnight. They're super easy to use. They offer a lot of key advantages, and we'll talk about these advantages today. But these platforms help you, very easily put your products, list your products online, use some of their professionally designed templates that they have thousands to choose from. And then literally you're plug and playing, and within a matter of hours, sometimes a few days, you can have a really well-looking, polished website.
Well, that's great. And so for these websites, for our audience, I know that there's other things that have to plug in, things like features like e-payment, logistics, supply chain logistics. So how do those components, do these sites like Shopify have those components already built in?
Yeah, absolutely. So 5 really key pillars that I want to talk about real quick about these platforms. And these platforms, there are abundant amount of them out there. Shopify being really one of the most heavily used right now. There's Magento, Volusion, Zencart. They're all subscription based. So you can pay as low as $20 to $30 a month to use the whole suite of features and functionality. One of the key things is, again, having a shopping cart embedded in this website. So the shopping cart acts as an order processing system. They have a whole inventory management suite of features behind it to be able to alert you if you're running out of inventory. These are what we call POS systems, or point of sale systems, in which it allows to accept credit cards. The payment integration part of it is one of the key reasons why these platforms have so much value add. You can integrate with your existing merchant account if you are currently accepting credit cards through your online store. Through your physical store, if you have a storefront. Usually your merchant account will have a payment gateway that you can easily connect through API to this online store, so you can start accepting credit cards. If not, a lot of these platforms offer you a free merchant account. So Shopify, for example, allows you to use their payment system called Shopify Payments, and they collect, 2 to 3% off every transaction, just like any other merchant account would. But allows you to accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express very, very easily. So the payment integration side is really a key component. The second part that Ray was mentioning is logistics. Well, now you have buyers buying products online. How do you get the goods to the customers? Well, you would have to obtain a local carrier account. So for example, you can get a FedEx account, you can get a UPS account, you can get a USPS account through stamps.com to ship to the postal carrier. And you can easily just plug in your account information directly into Shopify, and it'll pull your rates directly to your customer. So if your customer is located, anywhere around the country, yet alone the world, you can plug in the zip code, and based on your rates with your account, with your carrier, they will publish what those shipping rates and options are for your customers.
Well, and what's so great about that is, it wasn't all that long ago that you had to shop individually for each of these components, so you're building a website from scratch and then having to figure out how to integrate it with payment systems, and then as well as the supply chain. But with so many of these solutions, it's all built into one. And for the most part, those rates are also, I would assume, competitive, because those large platforms, are driving so much traffic to those supply chain companies.
Yeah, absolutely. the logistics side and talking about payment integration and shipping management, I mean, that's a whole separate course of its own. I lecture a lot about e-commerce, and the fundamentals behind all of these things can go on a semester and beyond. But effectively, what we want to try to convey here is that it's very easy for you to get an account through these carriers, plug in, and you'll be able to display to your buyers very quickly and easily the speed and the cost of shipping the products to them. When it comes to international, you can also plug in your DHL account, for example, or if you have any other logistic accounts, and it'll publish international rates. FedEx and UPS have gone global now. So they're not just domestic carriers. They also do shipping to, 100+ countries around the world. So they themselves can also facilitate publishing those type of rates for international customers.
So I don't necessarily need to say, okay, I've gone online, here's my platform. Now I have to figure out the international part. Really, the international part is plugged right in because so many of those logistics providers are already doing the international part. So it gives you that ability right there.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that sometimes we ask questions when we do, seminars and talk about international trade, and we say, we pose one question to these entrepreneurs and business owners, and that question is, are you ready to go international? And the question a lot of people say is, well, I don't know. Do I have the right systems? Do I have the right resources to facilitate that? But what they don't know is, if you're engaging with e-commerce and using some of these solutions, you are already primed and ready to do business. And a lot of small business owners, once they go online and start selling through their Shopify or their Magento or their web store, they realize that, hey, you know what? All of a sudden they got a customer from Australia or from Germany or from China. They didn't market their products to those countries. They didn't plan on doing any sales in those countries. But because you're doing the world of online e-commerce is so global that people can stumble onto your website and start purchasing the products, pretty much unknowingly. So what Ray is saying is absolutely right. When you plug in, use some of these tools, you're already ready. Your systems are already primed you to engage in business, whether you like it or not, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get into the marketing part in just a minute, because, the whole idea is, okay, sort of the gateway drug of international can be, the introduction of getting into e-commerce, where you're discovering all these new international markets and buyers for your product. But I've also heard from clients, I've had clients say, okay, I've developed my website, and I've got my website going and I'm selling to customers around the world, but now there's also these platforms. And I've even had clients say that they found their own product on platforms, separate and apart from their selling activity on their site. And sometimes it was their own customers. So I find a lot of companies will then come to us and say, okay, well, I guess I need to look at these omni-channel platforms as well as look at my direct to customer website. So what can you tell us a little bit about sort of this whole world of omni-channeling, sort of what that means, and how to participate with these big omni-channel platforms?
Yeah, so once you've set up your own website, and that's usually, at least here in the United States, that's usually kind of the lowest hanging fruit, the first thing that you do. You build a brand, you put your products, you create a Shopify website, and you're like, I'm open for business. You're excited, you're ready to go. But business comes slowly because people don't know your brand, all right? We haven't talked about marketing yet, but if you don't have the traffic, and by setting up a web store, it's great to facilitate conversations with your customers. They can purchase directly from you. You can engage in customer service directly with them. But you'll soon realize that those things are limiting, especially with a young upstart, new brand or a new company. So the next evolution in e-commerce is to sell in these big, giant marketplaces. And the marketplaces, the Amazon.coms, the Walmart.com, there's tons of these smaller niche-based marketplaces, like Fancy and Gilt, that are focused on certain product categories like apparel or accessories like Wayfair and things of that nature, that these brands start matriculating into and start selling into. So these omni channels, as we call it, are big, huge, basically think of them as big box online retailers that have millions and millions of eyeballs and traffic, buyer traffic, that are funneling through their website every single day. And it's great to host your products there, and hopefully you can take advantage of that traffic. So the next thing that most people do is they'll try to open up, they'll try to apply to be a vendor in Amazon or Walmart. Etsy is something that you can open up for the maker space. eBay is obviously a C2C site, but a lot of businesses still sell on those sites as well. So these are kind of the platforms that you can apply to be a vendor. And once you go through the process of becoming a vendor and being approved, then you can start listing your products. You can list your products, you can have SKUs. There's a whole list of compliant things that you have to prepare for. And obviously we don't have the time to discuss all that, but navigating all that is obviously an important thing to consider. But at the end of the day, you list the products, and hopefully the traffic that you get from there, people are searching for certain products, and they're going to start putting you up in the product display and product result pages. And hopefully you can get some sales activity from these giant marketplaces.
Great. Well, and also too, we hear a lot about some of the international omni-channel platforms, Tmall and others. Is it pretty much the same process to be a part of those omni-channels?
Yeah, good question, Ray. So, this marketplace dynamic has transcended obviously just the United States. There's each country has their own, large or multi players in the space. So in China, you have Tmall and JD.com, Jingdong, and you have Yihaodian, and they have dozens and dozens of these giant marketplaces like we have with Amazon. You have Jumia in Africa, you have Mercado Libre in South America, and the list goes on and on. Each country has their giant marketplaces. And as you go and venture global, in essence, what you want to do is start listing your products throughout key strategic locations and countries, and list your products there to be able to sell directly to those consumers. There's been a massive shift in global e-commerce in which there's this idea of drop shipping, which allows for, let's say, a US brand or US seller to list their products on a website, let's say Gmarket in Korea, and Koreans, the local buyers there would stumble onto Gmarket, which is their largest platform, see a product. They can't really decipher if that product is, hosted or being, fulfilled locally in Korea or in the United States. It doesn't matter. They buy the product, and then now this US seller gets the order and then process that order by shipping directly to that consumer through various different logistic and carrier options. So this dropship idea is bringing the world closer together, is truly making the world smaller in a sense that consumers from all over the world can actually interact and buy from sellers from other parts of the world and have products drop shipped directly. Really circumventing the old trade model in which you have intermediaries like trading companies or distributors that have to bring the products to the local country and then distribute from there. But navigating those marketplaces is a little bit different. A lot of these marketplaces internationally know that there's a demand for international sellers. And so they might charge them entry fees. They might charge them monthly or annual fees to sustain their stores online. And then there's a whole slew of other marketing costs involved. When we talk about marketing, we'll go through that. But yes, this is becoming the trend. Sellers are moving out of just focusing on Amazon and going beyond into other global large omni-channel marketplaces to sell.
Well, and that's the other exciting thing. So when we talked about direct to consumer, there are these options to choose these platforms that support the logistics element of it, the payment element of it, as well as these omni channels can also provide these kinds of services. the one thing, and again, we have a limited amount of time to discuss all this, but it does bear mentioning that as much as all of these platforms will help you with the transaction, in terms of doing international business, you still have to do your due diligence about compliance and regulatory. So, whether it's items that are export licensable or meeting those types of import regulations, you still have to do your due diligence with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, compliance, more of these omni-channel marketplaces are doing what's called trade infringement scrub. So they want to make sure that, sellers who are selling on their platform or representing a certain authentic brand have the wherewithal, the approval, the authentication in order to sell those products. And, we Amazon and Walmart.com here domestically are going through those struggles as well to ensure that, product sellers from overseas aren't, dumping products, aren't engaging in this type of, infringement along the kind of the omni-channel lines.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to remind our audience too, that through the SBA, through the Small Business Development Centers, through our partners at U.S. Department of Commerce, there's plenty of resources that are low to no cost that can help particularly U.S. exporters getting into e-commerce, how to better understand what some of the compliance pieces are that they have to consider, so that they go in and informed and know which resources to go to find out more about it. But with both of these, whether it's direct to customer or whether it's using these omni-channels, one of the things that I think is unusual when we consider all the other types of selling channels is with whether it's your website or whether it's using an omni-channel, you have to figure out how to bring customers to your website or bring customers to your part of, this, for lack of a better word, electronic mall that you're participating in. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about how you acquire customers, site optimization, sort of, what that sales funnel looks like.
Yeah. So, when you have a website, you're jazzed, you're ready for business. But, you're really, halfway there in terms of, trying to really engage in making sure you get traction and sales numbers. A lot of companies and small businesses are engaged in e-commerce, obviously more than ever before. And COVID obviously exacerbated it because a lot of people had now a primary focus on doing business digitally. So now you have the internet crowded with sellers and merchants trying to sell their products. So it's becoming very noisy and ultimately very competitive depending on the product category. Digital marketing and understanding digital marketing and search engine marketing is so important today. In order for you to get some good wins, in order for you to have a good user acquisition strategy. And what does that encompass? Again, that is could be reserved for hours of a discussion at a later time. But in a nutshell, search engine marketing really encompasses, number one, search engine optimization. How do you optimize your web store, your website, your Shopify website in order for the search engines to be able to find you, right? Google, being the predominant search engine that everyone uses, have these algorithms, and they have these spiders and crawlers that crawl millions and tens of millions of websites to index them to proper keywords, index their content to make sure that they're domain experts in a specific field, because they want to make sure that their customers, which is you and I, people doing the searches, find as quickly as possible what they're looking for. So if you're selling shoes, if you're selling, fishing poles, whatever it is, your site needs to be optimized for those keywords. And again, SEO is a large topic of conversation. There's a lot of things that you have to do in terms of creating the right content, doing, keyword optimization, doing meta tagging behind your website. And those take a lot of technical prowess. There are a lot of good agencies and consultants that help with that. But over time, SEO will gradually help you index and get ranked higher and higher. That's one pillar. The other pillar is, okay, I'm ready to generate some sales right now. I can't wait for SEO to take place in 6 months to 12 months in order for me to, be high ranked on the search engines. What can I do now? Well, what you can do is paid advertisement. Paid advertisement is search engine marketing. Basically, you can pay for, PPC or CPC, what we call paid per click ads. On Google, a lot of the social media platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, TikTok now is launching their online media channel to allow for advertisers to be able to instantly get noticed. And you set aside a budget. There's a whole bidding process in terms of your keywords. But at the end of the day, there's an option for you to buy some ads, and hopefully that can generate some return on investment for you in regards to your ad spends.
And and also too, I know product reviews for me personally are very important when I shop online. Do they drive traffic as well?
Product reviews absolutely drive traffic. So, before you venture into conducting a whole campaign around digital marketing, my best practice is always make sure you have good housekeeping in terms of ensuring that your website does not have a leaky funnel. And when we say leaky funnel in the world of digital marketing, we're saying that, you're going to spend money trying to get eyeballs and get users and traffic onto your website. You want to make sure that they don't go on your website and leak out. Otherwise, you're just throwing money down the drain. So preventing a leak of funnel is one of a few of the things that you need to do is, again, making sure you have a robust and good SEO strategy, making sure your website has a proper URLs, is capturing their information properly. So if someone comes onto your website, there's a form that they can capture their emails. There are a couple metrics that we measure quite heavily in the e-commerce space. One is called site abandonment, and the other is called shopping cart abandonment. So when someone comes on your site, you can measure the length of time that they stay on your site. What pages do they go visit? Where are they scrolling? Where is their mouse pointer? And there are some plugins that you can install to get, kind of a heat mapping of your website to see where people are going. Understanding why they come on your site and why they leave is very, very important to prevent that leakage. The other is shopping cart abandonment. Majority of people will add your products into their cart, but they never check out, right? So that's also a leaky funnel. So how do you prevent shopping cart abandonment? How do you employ some strategies that, when they're on your site and they're idle for a couple of minutes, you maybe serve them a pop-up, say, hey, we noticed that you've been idle on your website. Can we give you a 10% off coupon? If people are adding their products into your cart and they're not checking out, maybe you reach out to them through an email campaign or a drip campaign to say, we noticed that you went on your site and you were interested in our products, but you never made it through checkout. We love to give you an incentive and give you a 20% discount. And here is your shopping cart that you can click on and revisit. So these are all strategies to prevent that leakage. And there's many more other strategies around that, again, consultants and certainly, SBDC advisors have a really good background and knowledge of that can help you making sure that your website is not leaking. And then now you can go spend the money and reel in all the traffic necessary.
And so to wrap things up, how do you know if you're ready to get into e-commerce? And then real quickly, what are some of these items of cost that are maybe different from what we consider traditional international trade?
So, the question of whether you're ready or not, it really is dictated by many variables. One is, subjectively, what is your state of mind? Are you ready to engage in business overseas and engaging with business internationally online? And what does that entail? That entails, do you have perhaps a small team or human resources to be able to do some product translations, to be able to do some customer service? Because, if you're doing business online all over the world, you're going to get people that are going to be asking you questions about things. How do you engage with, product returns? These type of things are all, very, very important things to consider. The second thing is budget. I mentioned that setting up your web store is very, very cost effective. As little as $20, $30 a month, you can have a beautiful web store with all the bells and whistles, ready to accept payments, ready to ship out products, even have built-in marketing components for you. But just because you set that up, I think the takeaway here is that doesn't mean you're necessarily ready to engage in sales, right? And acquire customers. So having the right budget is important because you may have to invest some money in marketing, in search engine marketing and search digital marketing, not only for your own website, but also in the omni channels. These big omni channels, whether it's domestic in Amazon or Walmart or internationally in any of these global marketplaces, in essence, they're really large product search engines and they thrive off ads, unfortunately. So if you're a new merchant, you're not going to get a lot of eyeballs. You're not going to get a lot of traffic. In order to do so, you have to spend a little money placing ads within Amazon, within Walmart to lift. These are called sponsored ads that lift your listings higher and rank it higher. So over time, having a prepared budget going into it is going to be ultimately very important. And then, making sure your operations is handled properly, budget-wise. Do you have the right people, like I said, to handle returns, customer service related issues? Are you, a lot of brands are doing this right now. They're allocating small budgets to give out gift cards to customers to entice them to write product reviews, because a lot of buyers don't write product reviews, but they are golden to help you accelerate your product listings, SEO, and more sales. So we have customers that buy from you. You may have to give them a $10 Starbucks gift card to say, will this entice you to write a good product review for me? So all of these are important to consider in terms of the costs surrounding going online.
Well, and again, I hope our audience has found this information useful. Again, we've tried to give a very quick overview of some of the key areas of e-commerce. But as much as this is quick, we also know that we can provide support to America's exporters through SBA programs, through the SBDC program nationwide, which provides no-cost assistance, technical assistance for international exporters, as well as our partner agencies, such as the U.S. Department of Commerce Commercial Service. So I hope everyone found this useful. It's great having a conversation with you, Jay, to discuss this, because after all, these are things that we hear all the time in terms of questions and inquiries we get from firms. So anyway, I hope everyone's enjoyed this, and hopefully this will lead to other conversations. So thank you, Jay, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ray. Good luck to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
We're here to support you. Bye-bye.